Welcome back. Now we bring you the newspaper headlines. Let's see what the front pages are saying this morning. We begin with the Daily Independent in Nigeria. The Daily Independent newspaper, 2024 budget, experts warn federal government over exaggerated assumptions. See foreign loans boosting forex supply soon. I don't know how we feel. We're very excited about that. I mean, we've seen the exaggerated assumptions, for example, would include them assuming that, they're preparing the budget with the benchmark of the dollar to the naira exchange rate being at 750 naira, and that not being the representation of what is and what the future might hold. I would think that that's one of the exaggerated assumptions that the budget contains. And about the foreign loans, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, because we've not been known to use our loans quite wisely in the past few years. And whilst we always would say that getting loans, taking loans isn't a bad thing, but how are these loans being used? I mean, that's something we've talked about all the time here on the show. Yeah. Rising insecurity, Afenifere urges Tinubu to call for meeting of local leaders. Dangote clarifies EFCC's visit to office amid FX investigation. Well, there's a clarification to that. Last week, we took the story of, there were allegations that the Dangote group were operating with forex that they had gotten at a much cheaper rate from the Central Bank of Nigeria. And so the EFCC stormed Dangote Group headquarters, I believe, and there were investigations ongoing, and he's come out to clarify it. I'm hoping
I saw an official letter from the Dangote Group, on that. So, it's mostly just to calm the nerves of the stakeholders and those who are investors also with the Dangote Group, and to let that there's no cause for alarm. But, it's the development story. I think that the EFCC and its investigation will probably still continue and see where it leads. Those have linked politics to these investigations, but we'll see where it leads.
Yes, we will indeed.
All right.
Now, still on the front page, NACO rules out review of safety threshold rates for airlines. That's what we should look into. Kogi government to unveil new Ohinoi of Ebira land among 70 aspirants. 5 die as boat capsizes in River Niger. We took a story earlier when Dashin brought us breakfast headlines, and it is one of the updates we looked at in Anambra State. And yet again, we'll keep mentioning that until we strengthen our safety protocol on the waterways, we will keep seeing boat skies, and we can guarantee the quality of boats and ensure that people are wearing life jackets, and not just wearing life jackets, but life jackets that are actually working, quality life jackets. We will unfortunately continue to see like this. You can't avoid accidents, but what you can do is ensure that you have safety and protocols put in place to mitigate the chaos that would have erupted from these accidents. And once again, our thoughts and our prayers are with the people of Anambra State. At the top of the paper, we have PDP, Labour Party, NNPP considering merger for 2027 election, NC front. Do you see that happening?
Here's why. There's, conversations about, how it is way to be able to defeat, a party currently as strong as the APC, mostly because the APC has, from what analysts have said, it's not just a political party, it's also a party that has been able to break down actions that currently have existed that should protect, some level of integrity with, the electoral process and with governance and all of that. And so people have said it's a state capture. Yes, sorry, that's what people have described it as. And so for you to defeat that, you're going to have, or you're going to need more than just a fancy political party. You're going to need mergers, collaborations from both civil society to different political parties.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Exactly, to defeat that. But I don't know that the individual differences that have existed between these three, that couldn't work in 2023, will work in 2027.
Because each of them, it's not necessarily, whilst they can argue that is for the betterment of Nigeria. They want to see Nigeria grow. Each of them has the ambition of Nigeria. Yeah. You can be so last Mongol of dethroning a party that has been in power. I could for starters does not look like who will be willing to
he's already mentioned
he's already mentioned that he's running for 2027.
Yeah, so it's difficult, Of course, the fact that, the PDP is a party, wrangling has its own internal issues, has also lost the trust of, Indians. And so it's going to be tough. The NNPP also...
The NNPP that people had assumed would merge towards the last of the elections, which was very surprising.
But it's also shown that it may also not have the political weight that it claimed to have.
Yes.
Because it won only one state, I believe. So
I don't see this happening, but politics and football are like never seen anything can happen. Still front in the conversation about fake degrees, president leagues fake foreign degrees to underfunding of universities. At the bottom of the paper, the final story, Tinubu others probe over transfer of 585.2 million naira grant into private account. Improper payment, diversion of public funds should be punished, according to Serap. Serap always doing the Lord's work.
Yeah.
2024 will be year of enforcement of laws, says Sonwu.
Yeah. So we're likely to talk about, the humanitarian affairs,
yes, we will talk about
probe.
it.
While Sadia Umar Farouk is being investigated for 37 billion naira fraud, the NSIP, I believe, is also being investigated for 44 billion naira fraud. Betta Edu, who's only been there for about 6 months, has also drawn her own, she also added her own, to the situation now. There's billions of naira that are being, investigated for misappropriation, but most importantly, or the one that has caught people's attention, is this transfer of 500 million naira into a private account.
Does it matter if you say that it's a project manager?
It doesn't matter. But here's what even makes it more interesting. That a day or two after this became public information, people were talking about it, the ministry with its own letterhead put out a statement defending this, saying that the person that the money was transferred to is a staff of the organization.
And the project manager.
It's shocking.
I mean, they don't see the many ways in which this is quite embarrassing. One in that, first of all, the laws do not applaud this. The laws forbid that you do that, right? I mean, this is the same organization, the same institution that had, when they were talking about transferring to poor people, they had talked about transferring money directly into their account. So how do you gather this lump sum and transfer into one person's account? Now, I don't know the reason why that was done, even though, of course, they have given their reasons, but there have been lots of speculation. Some people would say that they're doing this because they want to accrue the interest on the lump sum, but there's also the aspect of, how this would affect taxation. Because if they were to go through the regular means, these monies should be taxed. So you're depriving the state of...
You're even going too far. There's a law against it. There's no need to go in all that direction.
That was like the first thing that I mentioned. But I'm just talking about all the other areas in which this cannot be seen as right. So when they come out to put out a public statement to defend this...
There's a law against it. Nobody needs to go too deep, in breaking it down. I think the Financial Regulations Act 2009 clearly states it, that is, you are not meant to transfer government funds into a private account. Neither should you transfer private, funds into a government account. It's clearly stated there. So I'm not sure what explanation they were trying to give or what the ministry, and then this really just shows that the abuse of power goes all the way from, top to bottom, because if whoever it is that is the head of communications for the ministry thought that it was wise to put out a statement defending a law that had been broken or, one alleged crime that had been committed by, the head of that ministry, transferring 500 million naira into someone's account, I don't, it really just tells you.
It tells you that that's the norm, right?
Not just that that's the norm, maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's the norm, but other things, and I keep talking that when anybody's accused of corruption, the billions of naira of corruption in Nigeria, it's never one person.
All the people involved.
There's a web of people.
I mean, we did hear that she had said she got approval from the president, so that's another angle to look at the conversation from. But we'll delve into that much later. Let's head out of the Daily Independent and to the next paper.
All right, the Vanguard this morning says Naira notes scarcity, crunch worsens, banks ration cash across the counter. Customers frustrated as some banks shut ATMs, POS operators jack up charges, say they are sourcing cash outside the banks. That's a lie. Because, where else? What do you mean you're sourcing cash outside the bank? Who else is printing money for you? What? It's a terrible lie. That should even be an indictment indictment on them, because it's wild that you go to a wedding now, you see people with, new notes, ready to sell those new notes, for exorbitant prices to, people who want to spray money. But you go to the bank and you will not see money. So what is...
They try to withdraw money at the ATM and they put a limit of 5,000. The first 5,000 withdrawal, they'll tell you unable to complete transaction. Yeah. This one happened to me on Sunday.
Yeah, but I mean, the new CBN governor, should not shy away from addressing the Nigerian people.
That we saw, which is of course last year, that's already politicized. People still had money. Politicians still had cash. Yeah. A number of them still had cash. So they should come and I don't know what he'll be saying.
I'm saying that, the new CBN governor should not shy away from addressing Nigerian people and taking responsibility for this. Because we blamed Godwin Emefiele. And we remember that we blamed him outrightly and said that, he was likely the one responsible for this. You tried to make a Naira redesign policy that didn't work, and now suddenly we can't find cash anywhere. So we blamed them. And so the new CBN governor, Yemi Cardoso, should outrightly come out and say, okay, this is the reason behind the cash scarcity. Don't hide. The accountability needs to go around. He needs to be able to tell Nigerians why there's no cash in the banks. If he has given orders and it's clear that there's cash available in circulation, who is being held responsible for withholding it in the banks? These are things that the Nigerian government tells its people. How does the Nigerian government not have Naira to spend? Like, how do the Nigerian people not have Naira to spend and there's a government in office? It just doesn't make sense. How we talk about them and we just keep moving.
Doing trade
tackle of killings, Anyaoku tells federal government. Tinubu orders probing to alleged diversion of find at the bottom of the screen there of all inland waterways. That's also a developing conversation that I'm sure more people will talk about. I remember that there was the Ruga conversation in Buhari's administration. I'm not sure how they are closely linked or how they are connected, but it's definitely something that would come up later. EFCC visit, Dangote explains, assures stakeholders. Yes, I did see that letter yesterday over the weekend. UR and Unilorin Convent University say no fake professors on their payroll. There was a list over the weekend also that showed universities across Nigeria and some of them with fake professors. I saw, some of them pretty embarrassing. Some universities have up to 8 or 10 fake professors, sometimes even more. But
wait, there's one more story there, please. NFF to Super Eagles win AFCON and pocket 32 million naira bonus each.
Yeah, there's I think the winners of AFCON makes $7 million. Runners up get 5. The sports team will be able to tell better, but I think it's 7 million. Then 5 or 6 million for the second runner for the second place. The third place gets. I don't remember. I don't want to make any mistakes.
Super Eagles winning AFCON.
Yeah, possible.
Yeah.
Very possible.
Fingers crossed.
So yes, the winning nation gets a lot of money from FIFA. So yes, they should be able to get 32 million. That's chicken change. These are the stories that we have time for this morning on Breakfast Central. Of course, you remember you could grab a copy of either of these newspapers. We apologize for not being able to bring you more. Grab a copy of either of the newspapers. And of course, if you have thoughts on these stories that we've shared and the ones that we've also spoken about, quickly tweet this morning at News Central TV. Let us know your thoughts on these stories. Stay with us. We'll take a short break. And when we come back, we continue with our top stories.
Africa is rising. Again, we hear our sounds echo on the other side. Afrobeat and Afropop reinvented, hip life brought back to life, new energy infused into Kwaito and Kwela. Africa is balling. Every stroke, every shot, every race, we find our place at the top. Taking the helm of real power, new hopes for democracies. A breed of entrepreneurial tigers, audacious storytellers, and a promising generation raring to go. Truly, Africa is rising. And this is where the stories that define our continent live.
It's not just news to us. It's our voice and our story. It's our report. How we tell African stories for Africans. With detailed, timely and authentic reports, News Central is your home for true news and African stories. I am Omolola Ololade. This is direct response to live happenings. Factual content as truthful reporting. This is the site of where the building collapsed yesterday evening. I am Bettina Onweli.
President Bola Tinubu has ordered a thorough probe of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation led by Betta Edu. This is according to a statement released by the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris. Controversy had enveloped Edu's alleged involvement in the approval of 585.198 million naira to be disbursed into a personal account.
In a letter allegedly signed by the humanitarian minister, she allegedly instructed the Accountant General of the Federation to transfer the sum to the account of one Unyelu Bridget as a grant for vulnerable groups in 4 states. However, the Accountant General explained that although her office received a request from the humanitarian ministry to make certain payments, her office did not act on it. But Betta Edu, who is the youngest minister in the president's cabinet, stated that there were plans to tarnish her image, adding that she wouldn't embezzle government funds.
Recall that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, is presently probing Edu's predecessor, Sadi Farouk, over alleged laundering of 37.1 billion naira during her tenure as minister and under the administration of ex-president Muhammadu Buhari. Our guest this morning is the chairman, Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership, CACO, Debo Adeniran. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, my sister. Thank you for having me, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you as well. It's not a very good news, or it's not very great news to start the year with. It's gone round on social media. Several interpretations, whilst majority of the people seem to be bashing the minister and the ministry, asking and demanding for her sack or suspension. Some are still in support of the minister, who says everything went through due process and was approved. So I'd like to find out, what were your initial thoughts when you saw the news?
Thank you very much. My initial feelings about it is that we are on this stuff again, where buck passing will be the order of the day when an infraction, a corruption infraction, had been detected in an MDA. But then the truth is that every case has its own origin, and that origin is what had to be traced. And the defense that have been put forward by members of the ministry has given some leeway to what could have happened. But then we also know the way politics is played in Nigeria. It is not also right to just look at somebody in the face and say he or she is guilty as charged. We have to put everything into perspective, into right perspective, really. The minister has denied having a hand in it. And her aides also have come up with releases that the minister is not involved in the case. But then she is the chief accounting officer of that ministry. And because under her ministry, she should be able to give account of it. And that is why she needs to answer questions. Why should things pass under her nose and she will claim that she doesn't have a hand in it? Then beyond that, I believe the Accountant General of the Federation is a civil servant that should guide any political appointee on the best way to approach an issue, because there are certain vested interests that may want to railroad the political appointees into doing things that are not in tandem with the laid down procedure, and giving it to them that they are relatively new in that office. They might not have actually had time to study all the procedures, all the principles and procedures that guide the operations of their offices. Then the civil servants that are working with them are in places to guide them. And that is why, even if the offense was committed by the minister, those who raised the memo, those who approved the memo, those who presented the memo to the minister must have passed through the Accountant General and Auditor General's office. What are the roles of all of those people? Everything had to be examined by the anti-corruption agencies. And I'm glad that the president has given a free hand for anti-corruption agencies to work on the issue, to call, to invite anybody that is that deserves to be invited. So basically, I believe that we are on right path, even when a wrong has been detected in the operations of that ministry.
Yeah, well, I mean, it almost sounds like, you know, certain people are, you know, trying to act like them, that, you know, anything wrong was done, or, you know, or something. But, you know, it was also telling, you know, the statement that was put out by the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry, saying that, yes, you know, that letter is real, but the person that they were sending the letter to, or they're sending the money to, is a staff of the ministry, and so there's nothing wrong with, you know, sending money to, you know, a private account because the person is, you know, is a staff. So I want you to talk a little bit more about, you know, the possibility that these things have been happening for a long time, and that's why they, you know, didn't necessarily say anything wrong with it until they were called out. I remember that Sadia Farouk Umar, you know, is still being investigated. She hasn't showed up to the EFCC yet. She claimed to be ill. Immediately, the EFCC invited her. So talk about, you know, the possibility that these have been happening for a long time, but are only just getting revealed now.
Of course, you see, there are certain programs of government that is not clearly explained to the people. And that is why many NGOs, CSOs, and you people in the media, the conditional transfer and this social investment program, a lot of people are still studying how these things these things are being administered. And that is why those who have corruptive mind, you know, latch onto that loopholes and do a number of engage in a number of awesome practices. Of course, any public fund that is released, you know, through the civil servant or through the civil, what do they call it now, financial procedure, should not go directly into private account unless that private account belongs to the contractor that has won the bid to execute a project. Even if it went into the account of the minister directly, it is an infraction against the law, because the minister's account, bank account, is her private affair and should not be used to convey public fund into, for any procurement or any expenditure that could have been approved. You know, even if it was approved officially, it doesn't have to pass through private person's account. Then the corporate account that it should go into should be in accordance with the contract that could have been awarded. That is, if it had to go through the corporate account of any other firm at all. But then, what we have been told is that, because the recipient, the beneficiary of that 585 million thing is the staff of a ministry, is a public servant, or is a civil servant. That is not correct. She doesn't deserve anything going to her account more than what is due her. It has to be her salary and maybe other emolument, not public fund. So whatever had taken public fund into account is against the rule. It's against the civil service. What do they call it? Public service rule, and that is the reason why she had to answer for it. And like I said before, the minister is the chief accounting officer of her ministry. The accountant general and auditor general also have, questions to answer, because he had to pass through their noses before it is finally approved. And that it has always been happening like that. All of these nebulous programs and agenda of government have always been shrouded in secrecy in a way that the public doesn't even understand the procedure, the laid-down procedure for distributing all of these like this. Look at what happened to the rice that was released to the National Assembly. We didn't know until recent that such large amount of poverty alleviation, goods is resting somewhere in the yard of the National Assembly members. Look at what happened during COVID-19. All of the materials that were donated, and procured by the government to be distributed to the people were not distributed. They warehoused them until some of them got bad. So all of these things could have been going on since a very long time. And now that it has been discovered during the Farouk Umar era, and that might be the reason why more eyes are now focused on the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, because even the population, the register of the beneficiary of the humanitarian largesse had not been made public. And how do we identify those that are qualified for the distribution of these palliative? All of this is the reason why it is easy for those who perpetrate corruption to practice their trade. And if there's no opportunity, if there's no enabling environment, it is difficult under the present conditions, where we have several legal instruments, to commit corruption crime. But then, if those who should oversight the ministry do not do the needful, then it gives them the opportunity to perpetrate the corruption crimes that we are witnessing.
Okay, so now I think the next perspective will be to look at what next, right? You've, of course, talked about how this is not allowed. Nigeria's Financial Regulations 2009, Section 713, clearly prohibits mixing of public and private funds. And that section goes further to say that anyone who does this will be assumed to have done so with fraudulent intent. So many have called for her sack, some have called for her suspension, and the president has said that they would look into this and investigate this. But how do you foresee that this would eventually turn out? What will become of this case? Do you think it's going to be one of those that will make a lot of noise about, sweep under the carpet and move on to the next big story? How do you foresee this will play out?
Well, the first thing we need to look at is the bureaucracy that led to the release of the fund. Everybody that is involved had to be suspended first. Then the minister, also, like I said, being the chief accounting officer of the ministry, will have to step aside, okay? Because we don't have to chase everybody away on every allegation. She might, because normally we have to look at human angle to some of these things. She might be a victim of naivety, okay? Because she's relatively new in that ministry. And those who want to deceive her, who might want to use her for their own personal benefit, could have done so, without letting her into the nitty-gritty of the agenda that they had behind the memo that was sent to her. If indeed she did not, append her signature on that fund, then she doesn't have to be suspended. But if she was lured, whatever make her to append her signature on a release that she didn't understand, makes her culpable, then she should be on suspension while the investigation progresses. Because then the investigators should also have it at the back of their mind that a lot of intrigues are going on within the ministry itself, within government circles, and on the political platform. So we should consider this personnel turnover so that we will not continue to run into the same vicious cycle, all the time.
Yeah.
The Farouk Umar aspect of it has not been cleared. And everything also borders on channeling public funds into private accounts. And so several billions of naira have gone down the drain to private pockets through that process. So what the system needs to look into is whatever makes it easier or easy for those who are perpetrating these corruption crimes to commit the crime with ease without being detected until the funds has gone into the beneficiary's pocket. So we cannot say, oh, suspend him, suspend her, suspend this, and suspend that. At the end of the day, if you don't tackle the root cause that makes such crimes easy for those who commit it to go through, then we will still go into the same vicious cycle.
I've always
which
argued
will not do us any good.
Yeah, I've always argued, that our fight against corruption cannot just be with media trials and one arrest every year, and all of that. We need to set up institutions and systems that make it difficult for stealing to happen. After the stealing has occurred and the money has been diverted in different places, hundreds of billions of naira, that the country loses every year. But I also want to, ask two things. The first one would be that we don't have a lot of history to look back at and say that when the president gives orders to the EFCC to investigate, one case or the other, the person eventually, is likely found guilty and things are fixed. Maybe that's why, we never see these systems improve with the fight against corruption. So share, what you think, with regards Sadiya Farouk Umar, Better Edu now, and then other cases that we've heard about in the past that don't give Nigerians any hope that this will lead, anywhere, if we're being honest. That's one. And then the second one is, if the Accountant General's office says that, well, they got a letter, but they didn't honor the letter. Money didn't, move into anybody's account. They didn't, approve it, and nobody was paid. Does that get Better Edu or any other person involved off the hook? Simply because they didn't receive any money. There was a letter sent, but the Accountant General didn't honor the letter, so nobody was paid anything. Private accounts didn't receive any money. Does that get them off the hook? Or has that request alone, is that enough for her to be suspended or for her to leave office?
Well, what I said earlier was that the bureaucracy that made it possible is enough to get some civil servants out of the way, because somebody must have advised it, and somebody must have done the memo. Somebody must have presented it to the Accountant General's office. And I am not so convinced that the Accountant General didn't act on that memo. I think what they are doing is a reversal of what could have been a wrong bureaucratic practice when they discovered that they have been found out. Maybe they are reversing all of the process that memo had gone through. Because what we had earlier was the money, that is 585 million naira, going into that private account. But then it will be gratifying if they say the money is still intact. It has not moved out of that ministry's account to the private account. That would be gratifying. That whoever raised that memo has committed an infraction that should not be forgiven under civil service rule. Two, you asked about whether we have history of such investigation leading to somewhere.
All right. Mr. Adeniran, we seem to be losing connection with you. But, like we've been following this story since last week, and of course it's still a developing story. Some people are comforted with the fact that President Tinubu has said that they should go ahead and investigate. Some people don't find any comfort in that because, we know how things A lot of Nigerians, say that these things are really just words without any substance. But we'll see where it leads, and see if anything will improve. We'll go on a very short break. When we come back, we of course would continue conversations here this morning on Breakfast Central. Welcome once again to Breakfast Central. We, of course, will follow up on that conversation and see where it leads with the investigation in the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry. I think one thing that is also important, is the fact that over time, there have been eyebrows raised, even right from Sadiya Farouk Umar's time, as to, funds, billions of naira that were, said to have been spent in one thing or the other, including, as time passes. Debo Adeniro from Kako, thank you very much for stopping by and for sharing your thoughts with us. We, of course, will continue to put our hands together in Nigeria's fight against corruption. And we look forward to speaking with you again.
Yeah. Okay, it's my pleasure. Thank you. I'm sorry for the break in transmission during the course of the interview.
No worries.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. It's been a very interesting time here on Breakfast Central. Let's share with you what comes up later today on New Central TV. Yes, Jasiri comes up at 10 a.m. West African time. And of course, much later at 9 p.m. West African time, we're bringing you NC Continental Prime. 10 p.m. West African time, it's Nigeria Tonight. And thank you once again for joining us. Remember, you can always be a part of whatever conversations that we're having. Simply tweet at New Central TV and share your thoughts with us on any of these conversations. And we, of course, continue for the rest of the day to bring you fantastic broadcasting here on New Central TV. Thanks very much for joining us. We're back here again tomorrow morning. I am Osao Gie Ogbonwa. See you tomorrow.